Hello everyone, welcome to Cyberscoop TV. Greg Otto here, coming to you from the floor of the 2020 RSA conference. I'm talking with Dave Weinstein, the Chief Security Officer of Claroty. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, IT and OT, that's a conversation that I feel like we've been hearing more and more about how the sides need to work together as they integrate digital transformation and putting the internet in all of their systems, and yet we know that they need to be separated, but we've seen recently stories about how there was even like a Coast Guard plant that wasn't protecting their IT systems, and attackers were able to get over to the OT side, and it shut down the plant for a couple of days. What are we doing wrong collectively? Are we doing stuff wrong collectively? And can we make it right so we don't have incidents like that continue to occur?
Sure, thanks for having me. So actually, I think there's been a fair amount of progress in the last couple of years, particularly the last 12 to 18 months, in terms of mitigating the risk of digital transformation from a cyber perspective, right?
Okay.
So the business proposition is clear, the business value is clear to a lot of companies. They want to converge their IT and OT networks because it yields greater efficiency, yields greater productivity, in some cases yields greater reliability and safety. Of course, they have to do so without accepting prohibitively high levels of risk.
Right.
So what we're focused on is enabling that digital transformation, but doing so in a way that is sensible from a cybersecurity perspective. So as you bring together your IT and OT, your information operational technologies, you also have to, at the same time, bring together your IT security and your OT security. So it's a two-pronged issue.
Okay.
First, you have to mature your OT security, right? Because in many cases, you have what are really mature enterprise information technology programs, but they're just starting down the journey of building out an OT security program.
Okay.
So you need to mature that. At the same time, you need to integrate it. You need to make sure that whatever you're doing on the IT side, from a governance perspective, from a security operations perspective, is integrated with what's happening on your plant floor or your factory floor. So that's kind of the conversation that we're having with Fortune 500 companies, Global 2000 companies, in critical infrastructure verticals.
So how does the risk conversation look? Because you talk about risk conversations at other businesses, a lot of it is around the financial side of things.
Yeah.
That happens at ICS companies, but obviously there is a physical aspect and possibly a loss of life that needs to be built into that risk profile. So how do you see those conversations growing, and what is the conversation like when the technology gets integrated and everything comes together?
Yeah, so actually the nice thing about OT cyber risk is it's very tangible, right? So not to say that IT cyber risk is intangible, but as opposed to dealing with data or reputational harm alone, you're dealing with things like productivity loss, in some cases safety. So for example, you can measure the cost of bringing down a plant for 2 hours, for 3 hours, for 2 days, or 3 days.
Right.
So CISOs, increasingly so, which historically have been focused exclusively on IT security, are now thinking about OT security in the context of this larger risk paradigm, right? And it's, like I said, very tangible. So this is also a really key point in breaking down some of the silos that have traditionally existed between IT and OT, right? Traditionally, OT is a safety issue, IT is a security issue. Now we're seeing that your plant managers, your OT engineers start to see value in adopting certain OT security practices and technologies because they can measure it in the context of reliability and uptime.
Right.
They've witnessed, unfortunately, plants go down due to malware just spilling over from the IT side to the OT side, as well as targeted attacks. So for them, it's really as much of a reliability issue as it is a security and safety issue.
So what's the government's evolving role in all of this? Because I know DHS has their ICS cert, DOE obviously wants to have their hand in this, and I know another wing of DHS, TSA, is responsible for like overseeing pipelines. So how do you see government's role evolving, and are they doing a good job? How could they get better?
Yeah, well, first of all, it has to be a public-private partnership. As you know, 90%, 85 to 90% of our critical infrastructure is owned and operated by the private sector. So it's incumbent upon asset owners and operators themselves to take primary responsibility for this issue. That said, the government can bring a lot of value to that conversation. And there are a couple different ways that government provides value to private industry. The first is through information sharing, which has been a journey with the federal government. I can tell you that from my observation over the last couple of years in particular, establishing CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, as essentially the clearinghouse for federal sourced information and intelligence has really helped strengthen the information sharing regime. That said, it needs to be a bi-directional relationship, and I think the federal government needs to do a better job of articulating the value proposition to industry to actually share that information. But nevertheless, that's one. Another is around vulnerability disclosure, and this is an area where we work very closely with DHS, as well as the vendor community themselves, the folks who actually manufacture industrial control systems around the world. So us and other security researchers are constantly finding bugs in ICS equipment, and it needs to be, those bugs need to be disclosed responsibly, but also quickly, so we can stay 1 or 2 steps ahead of the attackers. So DHS and other aspects of the federal government are really helpful in kind of brokering that relationship and making sure that the information is disseminated to the end user community in a responsible way.
Great. Dave, really appreciate you joining us. Thanks for your insights.
Thanks for having me.
For all of our videos, check out our YouTube page, and for more on ICS security and all things cybersecurity, check out cyberscoop.com. I'm Greg Otto. Thanks for watching.